Hi, this is Bob Scully, and welcome to another edition of the World Show, Entrepreneurs, the Fiera Series, coming to you this week from Miami, Florida, which is kind of appropriate and highly symbolic. You're about to find out why. We all know that entrepreneurs can start young, sometimes very young, and when they do, they'll have paper routes or they'll have lemonade stands or any one of those classic situations for kids. But it's rare that an entrepreneur will find his true calling for the rest of his career, the rest of his life, at a tender young age and never waver from it. And it's a marvel to look at when it does happen. Well, a few decades ago, a young man named Joel Ostrov, 10 years of age, was traveling with his dad on an airplane from Montreal all the way down here to Miami with a stopover in Baltimore. And it was a rare treat. In those days, not like the millennials today who hop on a plane like their parents do. In those days, at the beginning of the teenage years of the boomer generation, a plane trip was a very big deal. So it impressed Joel a lot, as it should have, but it did more than that. It gave him his calling. At that moment, he decided for the rest of his days, he would be involved in the travel industry and he would make a success of it. And boy, did he ever. With two partners whom he admires very much, he has created the largest travel agency in Canada, Vision Travel, one of the largest travel providers in North America. And throughout, he has never lost that great boyish enthusiasm that he had at the age of 10 as he was coming down here. Here's Joel Ostrov. Joel Ostrov, entrepreneurs do start young. It's a classic, but usually they have a paper route, or they're at the quintessential lemonade stand, or they're delivering flowers or whatever. But you actually found it's a vocation. It's practically a call from above. I'll take you back to when you were 10 years old so you can tell us how it started. At the age of 10, your father and you did something.
We did. We actually took our first flight, Eastern Airlines, flight 173. I remember it like it's yesterday, Bob, from Montreal to Miami with an intermediate stop in Baltimore. And I was fascinated by the whole experience of getting up in the morning in Montreal when it was freezing on a cold February day. And an hour and a half later, we were in Baltimore, where it was about 35, 40 degrees, so it was a bit warmer. In those days, we were in Fahrenheit, of course, in Canada. Yeah. And then another 2.5 hours later, there we were in Miami, where it was 75, 80 degrees, and it was just magnificent. And the whole experience changed me forever.
And made you fall in love with the travel business.
Absolutely.
You made that jump. I mean, other kids might have said, wow, I want to do this again with Dad next week. And that their experience would have been, I loved it and I want to do more. Your conclusion was different. You were already thinking entrepreneurially. As a matter of fact, I read that your favorite book was The Official Airline Guide.
Absolutely. In those days, of course, airline computer reservation systems were in their infancy. So the way you used to plan flights was to go into the Official Airline Guide and actually look up what flights you wanted and how you were going to get to a destination.
Yeah, I remember that.
And on board that particular airplane was a copy of the Official Airline Guide. So I ripped out the subscription sheet to apply for a subscription. I asked my dad, can I apply for this magazine? I think it was about $60 a year. And he says, go for it. And absolutely, that changed my life.
And this wasn't, another case that does occur frequently is people picking what their parents did as entrepreneurs. That's not the case. Your father did help you when you bought your first agency, but it wasn't like it was in the family.
No, absolutely not. My dad was actually in the ladies' retail business, far cry from the travel business. So there was no opportunity there, nothing that interested me. So it was really my love of airplanes, because the Official Airline Guide listed every airline in the world with their home addresses. Mm-hmm. So I began writing away to all these airlines, asking for them to send me pictures and literature and all the information that they had about where they flew to. And I was getting all this information back and literally plastering my walls of my bedroom with pictures of airplanes.
And at some point, you stuck with the dream.
Yes.
And really quite young. Here we're talking about a flight you took at 10. I think you were, how old were you when you bought that first agency?
Well, actually, I opened my own agency at the age of 22. Actually. So in between, I went to university. That was a requirement, the family requirement. You have to have a good education, something to fall back on. But all the while on the side, I was booking trips for people I knew and doing imaginary itineraries. So I got my first job while attending McGill University. studying economics, but really focusing on where this was going to lead and how I was going to get into the travel business and make it a career.
And a lot of people watching might come, or previously would have come to the conclusion I had come to a few years ago, which is it's a declining, disappearing business. But when we read the research, it's not if you do it right.
Absolutely. Well, back in the day when I first decided to do that, the whole concept of the internet was, many years away. So I was not looking at it as a declining industry at that time. As a matter of fact, I looked at the travel business. There was something missing, actually, Bob. When we're going back to the late 70s, the world was becoming more a global marketplace, and business people were finding the need to go outside their local markets to do business. And I saw that there was a really lacking of travel agencies that were specializing in business travel. So when we did open our agency in 1977, we decided we're going to actually try to specialize in the world of business travel and just cater our market to that. And it proved to be a very good decision.
And you made it earlier than others.
Absolutely, way earlier than others.
And you bring up the internet, but one point you also make that I picked up in the research. We're going to discuss the ups and downs of this. I mean, it was not always smooth sailing or smooth flying.
No, absolutely.
But one thing you don't fault is the internet. People kind of jump to that conclusion as well. They say, well, of course, with all these TV ads for, the website that compares the best fares and the best hotels and it's free and let's go. That's why the business was in trouble. Not so.
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we embrace the internet as a way to get more information and offer our clients more options for itineraries. The whole concept of the internet was going to be the downfall of the travel industry, and the travel agents were going to cease to exist because everyone was just going to go online and do their own thing, has really proven to be untrue, and fortunately for us has not really come to fruition. Our business has grown tremendously over the last 10 years since the internet really came into full force. And what we find is that people are more knowledgeable. So you go on the internet, and I'm sure you do it yourself, Bob. Sometimes you look up your own flights.
And so forth,
you go here, you go there, and then you come to us with maybe a clearer understanding of what you want. And it makes our job to some extent easier, but we can filter out what's right for you and what's not right for you.
And yet, I would imagine one big blow came when the travel industry, by that I mean the hotels and the airlines, they bought into the idea that this was over and done with, and they cut your commissions. That touches your business model.
Absolutely. Our business model changed drastically in the mid-90s. In 1995, Delta Airlines was the first airline to decide to cap commissions. We were earning anywhere from 5 to about 11% on the price of a ticket. So the higher the price of the ticket, the more money we earn. There is an argument to be made that was not logical, that it was just as easy for me to book you a trip to London as book a trip to New York, for example, in terms of the time element that was involved. So there was sort of some logic behind what they were trying to do. However, it ended up in a way backfiring them and working to our advantage. But what it did do is force us to look at our business model very carefully, because all of a sudden our revenues were going to be hit dramatically. And what they did is they forced the traveling public, especially businesses, to view the value add that a company like Vision Travel, which is really a travel management company, what value do we bring to the table? How do we add value? What's the ROI, if you will, on paying us to do that work for you? So I think it added an element of professionalism to the industry that maybe was not there previously. And I think the traveling public began to understand the value that we bring to the equation.
But when the model changed, I'm just trying to figure out exactly what they did. Did they used to pay you, like you say, off the top, certain cut?
Right.
And then all of a sudden they decided not to.
Exactly.
So who were you paid by?
Our clients. We had to actually go to our clients and come up with a pricing model that made sense to them, that said, okay, I can go and do this myself. I can pick up the telephone. We're going really pre-internet in 95, if you will. I could actually pick up the telephone and call an Air Canada, if you will, and make a reservation and not pay a fee. But there is a value that we brought to the equation that So the I guess the biggest challenge, Bob, at the beginning was what is that price that someone feels they are willing to pay in order to take advantage of our services. So we started out, believe it or not, with a fee of $9 per ticket, because at that point we were still earning
Flat rate
a,
sort of.
a flat rate of $50 from the airlines, right? So we had some income from the airlines. Now we were augmenting that with income from our clients. But when the other shoe fell in 2002, that's when they cut commissions entirely. And that's when you could no longer just get away with a $9 or $10 or $12 fee and pay your bills and keep your people employed.
And that points to, I guess, retail's kind of disappearing, the individual traveler, but the business sector of it growing. Is that basically what happened?
To an extent, that's what happened. I wouldn't say that that was what led to the entire traveling public going directly to the airlines, because there was still value, obviously, for an individual to not have to do all the research that we would do on their behalf, even once the fees got to a level that we could sustain our business model.
And when you, there's also, I guess, vocabulary in there somewhere, a commission and stuff like that. That's icky. That's, people don't like that. They don't like to be seen earning or paying commissions. But discounts, that's great. And actually, sometimes it might be the same thing. I can imagine an airline saying, okay, you use us instead of the other guy. Okay, we'll sell you the ticket under the list price. You can sell it back to your
Absolutely.
That too must have gone on.
Absolutely went on. And that's actually what led to the creation of Vision Travel. Because my original agency was a company called Partners in Travel. We were, I guess you would call a mid-sized, typical mom and pop agency, which existed in the 90s. That really was the nature of the travel industry, was your corner travel office with anywhere from 10, 20, 30 people. We were about 30 people. But realizing that the airlines, once they brought the commissions down so drastically, which they did in 95. Even before 2002, we felt that that's what was coming. So we said, okay, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to deal with this declining revenue stream and still obviously continue to grow and continue to have a successful business operation? So we decided to merge our company. We merged with two agencies in Montreal. One was called Voyages, the other Future Travel. And at the same time, we had our partners in Toronto, a company called Roos Travel, and another one called Rogers Travel. And we got together. We had been working on projects together previously, and we said, if we can create one entity that would have the clout of now the five together, which was about $100 million of buying power, well, you know what? Perhaps we could negotiate these discounts, as you call them.
Reverse commissions,
exactly.
whatever you want to call them.
They're now called back-end override payments, if you will. That's the industry technology.
Good.
But and so we all left our egos at the door, if you will. We gave up our names. I mean, I had my company from its birth in 1977. It was called Partners in Travel. And I had to give up that name, and we came up with the name Vision for many reasons. First of all, it's bilingual. Vision Voyage and Vision Travel means the same. And being in Montreal, having a sizable operation there, we needed a name that was...
It's trilingual even with the Hispanic.
Well, there you go.
Vision.
Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish yet, but it's on my bucket list to do. So we formed Vision Travel in April 1st of 2000. And we created this $100 million company in Montreal and Toronto with head offices in both. Actually, the financial headquarters are in Montreal, where I sit, and my two partners are in Toronto, Aaron Roos and Brian Robertson. So we now had a $100 million company. And lo and behold, we didn't have to go to the airlines. They were coming to us and saying, Joel, what can we do to get your business? We want a bigger piece of the pie. So our thoughts turned out to be very, very correct, if you will. It was a good intuition. We formed the company in, as I said, April of 2000, and we've never looked back. It's just been growth ever since.
And size matters, obviously.
Absolutely.
That's what turned it around.
Yes.
So this is a case also, and we've seen this in many, many businesses, of a mature industry teetering and tottering a little bit because its business model is under siege. But what saves a few companies is volume.
Absolutely.
They consolidate. So you were the consolidator. You now have the largest company in Canada. The
Absolutely.
largest travel management business.
Yes. Today we're about 700 million in sales, 700 team members across the country, all the way from Montreal to Victoria.
And I'm sure as we look at your success story, it's great because it professionalizes also a lot of things where people are sometimes disappointed. The internet can be very disappointing. You're promised something, but it's not there, and you have nobody to turn to complain. That must play a role, sort of like it's like the second wave. You get back people who had left you.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting that you say that, Bob, because that is our claim to fame, is what happens when something goes wrong. Because we all know that when it's very easy to go on internet and book a flight, and if everything goes well, you're fine. But when you have those flight delays and you have to line up at a connecting airport, in a line with 100 people, whereas when you're using a company like Vision, we've already protected you on your connecting flight. We know your flight is going to be an hour late. You're going to miss your connection. So you have not only someone to call, you have somebody who's proactively working on your behalf.
And security has become a concern for everyone.
It's huge.
Let's talk about that. You have a program for that.
Yes. We call it our duty of care program. And what it is making sure that you, as an entrepreneur yourself, if you own a company, or you're running a company and you have travelers traveling all over the world, sometimes into dangerous areas, that we are making sure that those people are connected to us and connected to you, so that if there's an event such as the Paris bombing or the Brussels situation, that in a matter of moments, you can call up on a map in your office and see where all your travelers are at that particular time. They are instantaneously told by us of what's going on, and we check in to make sure they're okay and how can we get you out. And we also contact all the people that are perhaps traveling to that destination within the next 72 hours and seeing if they want to change their plans before they've even had a chance often to have seen the news item themselves.
So you can geolocate them and reassure the relatives.
Absolutely. It's a very comprehensive program, and it goes with a mobile application so that your travelers get warned on their mobile app. They get these alerts of what's going on in the world, how have they been affected, and how are they going to be protected to make sure that they're okay and brought home safely.
And I noticed throughout your literature, you stress this, and for an obvious reason, because it's what's needed. They can always call you.
Absolutely.
24/7, there'll be somebody at the other end.
Absolutely.
It won't be a voicemail or something.
Exactly.
So I can hear people in their living room saying, okay, fine, but ask him, Bob, about lousy meals on flights, tiny seats, overbooking, charging for luggage, all those irritants that point to a cheapening of the service, unless you're in business class, which I think pays for 2/3 of every flight anyway.
Absolutely.
But if you're not there, you're in chicken class, and you feel like a chicken.
It's interesting because you already gave my answer to everybody is just fly business class and you're fine. But that's not a realistic answer. We have seen, there's no doubt about it, we've seen a decline in the service levels over the years, and the charging for all of these, they call them ancillary services. Where that name came from, I really don't know, because those are services that used to come with the price of the ticket. And I really think that it's when you come to the airline's perspective and you look at what they're trying to accomplish, they're trying to be profitable, because for many years airlines made no money. They just would lose money year after year after year, and that's why probably so many of them went bankrupt over the years. So this model has actually turned the airline industry around, where they're making money. Now, you as a traveler, it might be an irritant to you, but at least you have a very, very solid, financially secure, air transportation system today that you might not have had 10 or 15 years ago.
But doesn't that point to, since we're discussing business models, since there's more solid footing now for a lot of them, a competition on quality? In other industries, that's what would happen.
Yes.
The smart guy would come out front and say, well, I'm offering all these wonderful things you used to have, and I'm not charging you more. And then he walks away with the market. Is that going to happen?
I don't believe so, because that would lead, they would lead to a bankruptcy situation. You can't sustain that model. What you are seeing, however, is competition for some level of frills that you didn't have before. If you talk in Canada, you know, you have Air Canada has launched Rouge, which is their low-cost
Yeah.
airline. Now, at the beginning, you heard a lot of people very unhappy with the product. The product was launched very quickly and perhaps not launched when it should have been. It would launch a little bit prematurely. But I got to tell you that after, I think we're into year number 2, I may be a little off a year on that because time seems to fly.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. But the product is excellent today and can compete with any of the low-cost carriers in the world, like the Ryanairs, the EasyJets, the airlines in Europe that have really got this low-cost model down pat. And today, it's allowed Air Canada to do is differentiate itself. It has their mainline product, which has gotten better and better, and it has the Rouge product, which caters to the leisure traveler and allows them to keep costs relatively low.
And you, as a traveler, are you an omnivore? Do you have a favorite airline? I somehow feel you could never say so, but without betraying anything.
I absolutely do have a favorite airline. My favorite airline is Air Canada. There's just something about seeing that maple leaf on the tail wherever you fly. When I'm coming home from a destination and get to the airport and you look out and you see that red maple leaf on the tail, it does give you a sense of pride. And it's an airline that has gone through its difficulties over the years. I think their latest president, Kaylin Rovinescu, has done an amazing job of turning things around at Air Canada. I think they can compete really, and they have competed successfully with some of what's considered to be the world's best airlines, which are usually the Asian carriers, Cathay Pacific and Singapore Airlines, who are known for their wonderful in-flight service. But Air Canada has really done an amazing job and is my favorite carrier by far.
And do you have a favorite hotel chain?
I do. Again,
really?
because
Wow.
I guess because I'm so patriotic Canadian, Four Seasons is my favorite hotel chain. And they do an excellent job. They're outstanding in terms of in the deluxe category. I think they can compete with just about everybody. And again, when you go to a Four Seasons hotel, out front, you always see that maple leaf flying. And it makes me feel good.
And well, it makes me feel good that you're actually frank about this, because most people in this business would say, oh no, I love them all. They're all good, which may also be true to some extent.
Absolutely.
That they're really good. But I'm going to use that frankness to good avail, because I landed, no pun intended again, on a quiz you answered a few years ago.
Oh boy.
But very simple, and this won't involve commercial names. Aisle or window?
Aisle.
Why?
It's a little embarrassing. Air pressure affects my my biology, and I have to get up to use the bathroom. And if you're sitting on a window seat, especially on a long trip, you've got to ask people to move all the time, so it makes it very convenient.
Favorite airport? You answered here with a great choice of restaurants. Just trying to jog your memory.
Good goodness me, because it
starts with a D.
It might have changed since then. It starts with a D. Wow, because
it's a big hub down in the Sun Belt.
In the Sun Belt, that starts with a D.
Yeah. It's the
the
rival city to Houston.
Oh, okay, Dallas. Yes,
Yeah.
they do have a great choice of restaurants in Dallas.
Is it still your favorite airport?
I would say no. I had the opportunity to fly through Amsterdam Schiphol Airport recently, and it's wonderful. The shopping is terrific. They have great in-airport spas now, which are terrific. If you have extra time in between connecting, you can go for a nice massage. So it's a great added value.
If you could sit next to anyone on a long-haul flight, who would it be?
At the time, I wrote Bill Clinton.
That's right.
I believe that's
great conversationalist.
He is. I find him a very interesting individual. His presidency was certainly one that goes down in history as being a very interesting one, if nothing else. And I think he'd be a great person.
So
to
you haven't
talk
changed.
to.
He's still your choice.
He still would be my choice.
And do you remember your answer to the final quiz? This is an old, to be fair to you, this is an old quiz.
Yes.
But you were asked for your favorite travel tip, and you talked about restaurants and hotels. What did you say?
Oh,
I can read it back to you.
Yes, please
Ask
do.
the locals about restaurants, not the hotel staff.
Definitely.
And don't be penny wise, pound foolish when it comes to accommodation.
I would still stand with those points. Locals are going to know the best places to eat. If you ask a concierge, often they're going to lead you to places that are very touristy. If you meet people that you're working with at a destination, a lot of my travel is business oriented, so I have the opportunity to talk to people that work in those cities, and those are the people that you can really get an idea of where are the places to eat that the locals know, that the
Right.
concierge might not be leading you to, and so I find that works really well.
Well, Joel Ostrov, long life to you and to Vision. I know Vision is aiming for $1 billion size at some point, and I'm sure you'll
are.
get there. And if ever you fly with Bill Clinton,
Yes.
put me in the third seat.
You got it.
And I'll have a little camera.
Absolutely.
And we'll have some fun. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Joel Ostrov was our guest this week on Entrepreneurs, the Fiera series of the World Show. I'm Bob Scully. Have a great week.